Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Welcome back to Swaroop IT Solutions. So, this is the next technical video for slipstreaming the latest community update through SQL 2022 installation source or ISO. Okay, so this is a technical video series, video number 2, and this is the part 2. Welcome to Swaroop IT Solutions. Now in the previous SQL CU integration part 1, we have learned how to install SQL 2022 server along with the latest community update from the local source, that is local folder. Now in this particular part 2 video, we will learn how to create a Slipstream ISO or a DVD installation media of SQL 2022 which is already equipped with the latest community update. So let's start. So in this particular video procedure, we will learn following major steps. So this is the part 2 for slipstreaming SQL 2022 installation source ISO with the latest community update. Okay. So the first part is creating a slipstream ISO or DVD installation media of SQL 2022 equipped with the latest community update. Now before going on to the next step, let me just explain you what is slipstreaming or what is an ISO. So slipstreaming means, let's say SQL RTM version is there and later on Microsoft is releasing a latest community update or updates for that particular SQL server version. So we will be creating one ISO or a DVD installation source which is already integrated with the latest community update. Then we will be of course installing SQL 2022 through newly created SQL 2022 Slipstream ISO. So we will be creating the ISO first and then we will install our SQL through that ISO. The third step is we will re-verify SQL 2022 installation version in conjunction with the latest community update. Now the steps we have already completed in our part 1 video, that is SQL installation with latest community update. We have already completed. We have already created a fresh Windows 2022 server virtual machine. Then configuring Windows 2000 server with appropriate host name, then IP address and a local user called SQL admin with the admin access. The step we have already done is installing .NET 3.5 and installing .NET 4.8 on Windows Server 2022 virtual machine. Okay, so before moving on, let's verify these steps quickly. So this is my SQL 2022 fresh VM. It has nothing inside it, it's just an raw OS. Then let's verify the host name of it. So you can see the host name is SQL 2022. Let's verify the IP address of it. So I have given a local IP address 10.1.1.200 and the subnet mask associated with it. And the last confirmation of course is we have already installed .NET 3.5 and 4.8 on this particular SQL 2022 virtual machine. So if I am verifying it, you can see over here .NET 3.5 already installed and .NET Framework 4.8, this is already installed. So these many steps we have already covered. So I don't want to go into those steps practically. If you want to see how I have done these steps, you can refer to my previous video. The last step is downloading the latest versions of SQL 2022 community update, that is CU16 Microsoft has just released, and the latest SQL Management Studio, that is version 20.2. So those two particular softwares I have already downloaded on my local machine. So I will show you over here. So you can see SQL Management Studio, that is already downloaded, and this SQL 2022 community update number 16. Okay, this is already been downloaded. This is on my local machine. Okay, so this is what we have already done. All those steps we have already completed. Okay, now let's move on to the real practical steps now. Before that, we will verify our prerequisites also. So what are the prerequisites? So we will be requiring, of course, 2022 Server OS ISO to create our virtual machine, which we already did. Then second, a virtual or a physical machine with at least 16 GB or 24 GB recommended RAM, that also we have already created, as I said. And third is SQL 2022 Server RTM ISO or DVD drive. So that we have already had in our local machine. So this is the RTM version. RTM version means it's a raw application. It doesn't have any particular updates installed. It's an ready to manufacture RTM copy for SQL Server 2022. And fourth is internet connectivity for downloading latest SQL community update or service pack and latest SQL Management Studio. This also we have completed, but these are the prerequisites if you are doing this particular video. Okay, so what will be our lab setup for this particular video? So this particular table, as we have already gone through in our previous videos also. So first is our local machine or physical machine, for which the host name is Win 2022 base. It is running on 2022 data center server, and then its role is Hyper-V host, that is a physical machine. Its hardware configuration is 1 TB hard disk, and then latest i7 CPU with VTX enabled technology and 128 GB RAM. Its local IP is 10.1100, and it's a physical server or a workstation. Second machine, it's a virtual machine. Its host name will be SQL 2022. It is running on Windows 2022 data center server, same as the previous one, and it is SQL Server virtual machine, will act as an SQL server. Then its hardware configuration will be 100 GB VHDX and 1 virtual CPU and 24 GB RAM. Its IP will be 10.11.200 local IP, and the system model will be virtual machine. Okay, so this will be our lab setup for this particular video. Let's move on to the practical steps now. So step 1, we need to map the SQL Server 2022 RTM ISO or a DVD drive on our SQL 2022 virtual machine. So what I will do is, I will go back to my local machine. I will copy this path because it's a long path, and then I will go to my SQL 2022 virtual machine, and I will go to the settings of it. In the DVD drive, I will say browse. I will paste the path over here, and I will map this RTM ISO, okay, to this particular virtual machine. Next step is, on SQL 2022 virtual machine, create a local folder called SQL 2022 in C drive, and copy the whole SQL 2022 application ISO content in it. So we'll go back here, and in C drive I will create a new folder called SQL 2022, and then this is my DVD drive that we have just mapped SQL 2022. So I will go here and I will select all and then copy, Ctrl C. I will go back here and in SQL 2022 I will paste this content. Okay, because we require a read-write copy or a local copy of this particular SQL 2022 source installation media, so that's why we are copying it. Okay, so this step is completed. This is a local folder, remember this is not an ISO. Okay, let's move on to the next step. Next step is we need to create a new folder called SQL CU inside the SQL 2022 folder. So inside this particular local SQL 2022 folder, I will create a new folder called SQL CU. Okay, now next step is copy the latest SQL community update CU16, and its name is this KB5048033 x64exe, and we need to copy this particular CU16 into SQL CU folder. Okay, so I will go back to my local machine first, and this I have already downloaded, but if you are not downloaded, you can download it from the official Microsoft site. I will paste the link in the description box. So I will copy this particular CU16 and I will go inside. This is my virtual machine. I'll go inside SQL CU folder which we have just created, and I will paste it. Okay, now let's see, its extension is not showing, so we'll enable that option. I'll go to the view, hide extensions, show hidden files, hide extensions of known file types. So now you can see this is a CU16 exe. Okay, next step is we need to create an additional subfolder inside our SQL 2022 SQL CU folder, and the name will be CU16. So I will go back to my virtual machine, and inside this SQL CU folder I will create one more folder called CU16. Okay, why we are creating this folder I will explain it in the next step. Now in the next step I have created a couple of PowerShell scripts which we need to execute. I will explain these scripts in detail for you, what these scripts are all about and why those are required. Okay, so first we need to open the PowerShell ISO window with admin access, and we need to create a new PowerShell script for SQL CU extraction PS1. I have already created those ones, so let's go back to our local machine and I will copy those scripts first. So this is the first script, SQL CU extraction, and this is the second script, SQL update, which we will do in the next step. So I will copy both the files first, and I will first paste it on our SQL 2022 virtual machine. Now let's open the PowerShell ISO console from here. And I will run it as an administrator. Okay, now let's open the first script, which is SQL CU extraction. Okay, so I will go to my desktop, and this is the extraction. Now what is this script is all about and why do we require it? So let me explain it. We have just copied our CU16 on this folder SQL CU, we have copied this exe. Now if I'm right clicking it, there is no option for extracting it as of now. So we will extract this particular exe content into this folder, so that we will have our update source ready, okay, for our SQL 2022. The CU16 will be our update source. So whenever we are installing our SQL 2022, it will automatically getting installed through CU16 only. It is automatically integrated within the installation itself. Okay, so first we need to extract this particular exe. Okay, so coming back to my script now, what it is doing, the first script, the command will be this particular SQL 2022 SQL CU, and then this exe path, this particular exe, this exe path, and then /x. X stands for extract, and the destination folder. The destination folder we have already specified as SQL 2022 SQL CU CU16. So it will extract everything within this folder. Okay, so currently this folder is empty. Once I am executing this particular PowerShell script, it will be like having content of that particular community update. Okay, so let's execute this particular PowerShell script. Now you can see it is extracting CU16, and if I am going back to CU16 folder now, you can see these are the contents got extracted from this particular exe. Okay, so if you are extracting this exe, it will be like extracting these many files and folders. Okay, I hope this particular script is clear to you. If not, you can pause and reverse this video and you will again re-verify this particular script. Okay, it's nothing but a simple script for extracting our community update 16 exe. Okay, so this step is completed. Let's move on to the next step. I'll minimize this. So step 7 we have already done, that execute the above mentioned PowerShell script, and you should have an output as CU16 contents extracted in SQL 2022 SQL CU CU16 folder at the end of it. Okay, so this we have already done. We have already executed our PowerShell script. Now next step is we need to again open the PowerShell window, which we have already done, and we need to execute the script number 2, that is SQL update. Okay, so we'll go back to our SQL 2022 virtual machine. I will close this and I will open this second script. Okay, let me clear this screen also for you. Okay, now next step is execute the above PowerShell script, and it should provide the following outputs. What output it will provide? So it will update the original source x64 folder with the updated CU16 x64 folder, excluding one file, Microsoft SQL Chainer package data.dll file. Okay, so I will explain this for you in detail what this script is doing it. Now you can see in the previous step we have extracted this CU16 content. Our CU16 exe content we have extracted to this folder. Now we need to copy all these files to our main base folder. This is our main base folder, the SQL 2022 RTM folder, which we have copied in the previous step, right? So I need to replace all the files inside x64 folder. Okay, so you can see over here our base folder is SQL 2022 and our update folder is CU16. So I am updating the base folder with my CU16 folder. So what I am doing is, you can do it manually also, but I am doing it through PowerShell. So my base folder, again I am explaining, my base folder is SQL 2022. Okay, and my update folder is SQL 2022 SQL CU CU16. Why CU16? Because we have extracted our CU16 exe content in it. Okay, this is our update source. Now next step is we need to robocopy or copy the update folder this CU16 content x64 to the base folders x64. So we are actually replacing this x64 folder from the base folder to our update source. This x64 will be getting replaced by this x64, CU16 x64, but we need to exclude one file, that is Microsoft SQL Chainer package data.dll. This file we need to exclude while copying or overwriting the base folders x64 with the update folder x64. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. You can do it manually also, but I have just created one PowerShell script for doing it. Okay, so let's execute this script, and you can see it is done within a minute, and it has copied all those files, overwritten all those files. But if I'm going up, you can see one condition over here, that I'm excluding one file. Okay, which file I'm excluding? Exclude files, Microsoft, this particular file, Microsoft SQL Chainer package data.dll. Okay, so now my base folder SQL 2022 base folders x64 has been replaced with my update source, that is CU16 folder, but I have excluded one file. Apart from that, everything got override. Okay, so I hope this script is also clear to you. If not, again you can pause this video and reverse to understand it. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So our update is done. Our original source x64 folder got updated with the CU16 x64 folder. Now next step is very important. We need to open the SQL 2022 x64 default setup.inf file through Notepad, and we need to add a line as shown in the sideline figure and save the file. Now what line we need to add and why we need to add, I will just explain it in a while. Let's go back to our SQL 2022 machine. I will minimize this, and in the SQL 2022 folder x64 folder, this is the file which we need to edit. Okay, now this is the default setup.inf file which has been used for running the setup configuration. Whenever you are running this SQL Server installation wizard, it is referring to this particular file. Okay, so we need to add this particular we need to edit this particular file with certain inputs so that it will update our SQL installation source from our CU16 folder. Okay, so I'm just editing this file. So you can directly double clicking on it, it will open in a notepad. And now what line we need to add over here, we'll go back to our PPT. So line to update over here is PCU source is equal to SQL CU16. Okay, and before this path you can see over here dot and one /. Okay, I will explain this line to you, but let me just put this line first on our default setup.inf file. So I will go back here, and now I will enter this particular line. Make sure that you are entering the correct line, otherwise the setup installation will get failed. So this is the line what we need to update. Now don't put a forward slash over here also, this is not required. So this line is very much important whenever you are starting the installation. Now why this is required? Because we have extracted our PCU source onto this particular CU16 folder, so we need to specify this path. Now why I have not given any D drive or E drive over here? Because my ISO, or whenever I am mapping that particular created ISO to any machine, for some machines it will be D drive, so for some systems it can be E drive, F drive, whatever drive. So it will fail if I am putting, let's say, D drive over here. Let's say I am putting it like this. I am just showing you. If I am putting it like this, and if the system's ISO drive or the DVD drive is E drive, the setup will fail. So instead of that, I am just giving this particular option. Now this particular option will take whatever your ISO path is there, whatever the root ISO path, it will automatically detect. Okay, so no matter what drive letter, it will take for your ISO. I hope you got my point. Okay, so this line is very important. So I have just added this one, and now I will save this. Okay, and one more time we will verify it. Okay, because this is the most critical step for this particular whole video. Now let's go back to our next step. So we have added that particular file, and we have saved our default setup.inf file also. Now next step is, now we need to create ISO out of our installation source. Whatever we have done, this is on a local folder. So we need to install any ISO editing tool on SQL 2022 system. So for this particular video purpose, I am using Ultra ISO. Okay, so I will go back to my local machine, and I will copy this particular Ultra ISO software. Okay, copy this, and I'll come back to my SQL 2022 machine, close this, just paste this, and now I will install this particular Ultra ISO. It's a straightforward installation. Finish. Now we will open this Ultra ISO wizard. So opening this Ultra ISO wizard now. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So we have already opened this Ultra ISO wizard. The next step is, we need to copy or drag our SQL 2022 base folders whole content in that Ultra ISO's main window. Okay, so our updated source is ready now, the local folder. So this folder is ready with all the CU16 updates and all. So we will drag this whole folder's content in our Ultra ISO main window. Okay, now we have dragged it. Next is, we need to save this particular content as an ISO through Ultra ISO wizard. So click on save icon. So I will close this, and this is the save icon. I will click on this. So it will ask me to save this particular content as an ISO extension to a particular location. Okay, so next step is, provide an appropriate name to our ISO and save it to your preferable location. So I will just give the name as SQL 2022 underscore CU16. You can give any preferable name. This is my way because I need to remember that particular this ISO is equipped with the community update 16 for SQL 2022. So that's why I'm just giving this name. Okay, I'm just saving it now. Okay, now this has been saved. Now you can see over here it has created this particular ISO. Okay, SQL 2022 CU16. Okay, next step is we need to copy this newly created SQL 2022 ISO slipstream with CU16 to our main Windows 2022 base local system. Okay, so we will copy this one. I'll say copy and I will come back here. I will go to my main systems desktop and I will copy this particular SQL CU16 ISO. Okay, it will just take 2 minutes. I'm just pausing this video for 2 minutes. Once this is copied, I will come back to you. Now this particular SQL 2022 CU16 ISO has been copied to my local machine. So let's move on to the next step. So in the next step, we need to map this newly created SQL 2022 ISO slipstream with CU16 on our SQL 2022 virtual machine. So I will go back to the setting of SQL 2022 virtual machine, and here in the DVD drive I will click on browse. I will go to my desktop and I will map this particular CU16 ISO. I will say apply. Okay. Now next step is, of course, we need to launch our now SQL 2022 installation wizard. So through SQL 2022 server Windows Explorer, start SQL server setup through D drive setup.exe. So we have just mapped our ISO. Okay, this is our D drive. Okay, so if I'm going to it, it will show my DVD contents, whatever ISO we have just created. Okay, now remember that we have not specified any update source as D drive or something like that. If I'm going back here and if I'm double clicking, it is dot and then path of my SQCU CU16. So this means whatever drive it may take E drive, F drive, D drive, whatever, it will refer to that path only, since we have not given any particular path but we are just given the root path. Okay, so try to understand this particular line. Again and again I am repeating for this, because if you are giving D drive and if your DVD drive is E drive, then the setup will fail. Okay, so let's close this and now I will start the setup.exe. Now next step is, once SQL setup wizard starts, click on installation and then new SQL server standalone installation. Okay, so we need to click on installation and new SQL server standalone installation. This particular option we need to choose. So now I'm clicking on this new SQL server installation option. It will take a minute or so to launch the setup wizard. And now it has started our setup. Okay, so let's go back to our PPT. Now we need to install our SQL Server 2022 as a normal options or normal features. Okay, so once SQL22 installation wizard starts, on edition window you can select your preferable edition. If you are having a particular product key, you can specify that one also, and then you need to accept the licensing and terms and click next. So I'm using evaluation version over here, so I'm not selecting any particular standard or enterprise because I don't have a product key. It's an evaluation version. Once you are selecting a product key, then you have to accept this licensing, but in the evaluation part, no need for this. This is dehighlighted. So I'm selecting evaluation. I will say next. Next is we need to accept the licensing terms and click next. So accept next. In the next step, Microsoft update, we don't require any Microsoft update as of now, so I will click next. In the product updates also, we don't require anything as of now, so I will click next. So now it will install the set of files. In the next screen, Azure extension, we don't require Azure extension for our SQL Server as of now, so I will deselect that option, Azure extension, and I will click next. Deselect this, click next. So in the next screen, we need to select the what all features we require to install through SQL 2022. If you are a database administrator, you better know what to choose for your SQL Server 2022 installation. But as of now, I am just selecting a basic service called Database Engine Service, and I will click next. So only Database Engine Service, and I will click next. So in the instance configuration, keep the default instance and click next. So I'm just clicking default instance. Again, if you are a database administrator, you better know if your instance name is whatever the particular instance name you need to select, or a new instance you need to create, that you can do it by your own configuration. I will say next. Next step is on server configuration, verify all the values and click next. So here also I don't require to change anything. Again, it's up to your custom configuration of SQL Server installation. If you are sure what to change, what value you need to add over here, everything you can verify, you can add or change over here. In the collection, this is the default collection what SQL Server is taking during the installation. If you want to change it, you can click on customize and change it according to your requirement, but as of now I'm not doing any changes. Okay, so I will click next. So in the next step, database engine configuration, click on add current user and click next. So in the database engine configuration, I will be requiring to add at least one user over here so that it will have a full access for our database engine. So I will add this particular current user only, that is our SQL admin. So I will click on add current user. It will come as SQL 2022 SQL admin. Okay, so this is my local user for which I need to give the whole access, and I will click next. And now on the ready to install, verify summary and click next. So I will verify all the summaries. All the prerequisites are already installed. All the features we have selected, whatever database engine services, instance name is default, then your update source and everything is been defined, and your account has also been defined, SQL admin, SQL 2022 SQL admin administrator. Okay, so I will verify everything and I will click on install. So now it has started to installing our SQL server. So we need to now monitor the SQL installation process. So this particular installation will take 10 minutes or so. So I am just pausing this video for a while. Once this installation is finished, I will come back to you with the next step. So as you can see now, our SQL Server 2022 installation got succeeded. Okay, let's move on to our next step. So on complete window, verify that required features are installed successfully and click close. So I will click close on this one. Close this, close this. We need to restart our SQL 2022 virtual machine system once after the SQL installation. Although it is not asking for the restart, it's always better to restart after any particular major step. It will just take 1 minute or so to restart this machine. Now I will log in with the SQL admin. Okay, so next step is we need to download the latest SQL Server Management Studio. Version is 20.2 in our case from official Microsoft link. So download link, I have just pasted it for your reference over here. But we have already downloaded this particular Management Studio. Okay, as I have said it in the beginning of this particular video. So I will directly copy this Management Studio folder on my SQL 2022 machine. So let's go back to my local machine. This is SQL 2022. We don't require that. Let's go back to my local machine. And now you can see this folder SQL Management Studio is having this particular Management Studio exe also. So I will copy this particular folder and paste it over here. What you can do is, anyways, I'm just giving this suggestion. Anyways, you are creating this ISO file through Ultra ISO or the editing software, right? You can copy this folder also within that ISO. So it will be like a one master ISO for you, which is containing everything. Okay, as I said previously, SQL Server, when you are installing, you can install the Management Studio along with it in the previous versions. Now I don't know why Microsoft has bifurcated it, two different softwares and all, but anyways, now we have copied this SQL Management Studio. Let's go back to our step, and now we need to execute this Management Studio 20.2 exe and click on install. So I will double click on it. It will launch it, and simply I need to click on install. Now Management Studio is like a software which is actually managing your one or more SQL servers through a single console, like editing the database and all, running the queries and all. So this Management Studio is always required to configure and manage your SQL server. It is just installing. It will take 5 minutes or so. So by the time it is installing, I'm pausing this video for a while. Once this is installed, I think it's almost done. Yes, so no need to pause the video also. You can see this is completed. Okay, so this is installation has already been done, and then click close once the SQL Server Management Studio installation finishes. So I will click on close this also. And next is again we need to restart our system once, because we have installed one major software. So I will just restart it once. It's always recommended to restart your server or restart your system if any particular software or a major changes happen to your system. Let's move on to the next step. So once restarted, open SQL Server Management Studio through Start menu. So we'll open it. Through Start menu, you can click on Microsoft SQL Server Tools and then SQL Server Management Studio. So I will drag it to my taskbar so that I don't have to open it Start menu again and again. And I will click on it. Okay, so this is our Management Studio wizard over here. So in the next step, through SQL Server Management Studio, select encryption level as optional and click connect. So this is the new feature what they have added, the encryption level. Previously it was not there, so I will select optional. Now before clicking on connect, let me just check one small thing over here, because sometimes, most of the times, once the new SQL 2022 server installation happens, the SQL server service, which should be in automatic mode, is not getting started automatically. So let's see, otherwise it will not open. So I will open this service console and SQL server. Okay, so see over here, SQL server, MS SQL server, it has not started, although it should be starting automatically. So I'm just starting it. I think it has already been started, but it's not showing running as such. I will just restart it, no problem. Now see, I don't know what is the issue over here, why it is not starting automatically. It should in ideal situation, but anyways, now let's go back to our main window and I will say connect. And we have connected to our SQL server now. Now what's the next step? So next step is, before going on to the verification steps, we need to open the Microsoft official link for SQL version checks. Okay, so currently we are having this particular link over here. Let me go back to my main machine, and now I will open a normal browser window and I will say SQL 2022 version list. Okay, click on this. can see over here SQL CU builds. Okay, now the latest one is CU16. Okay, so that we have already integrated in our SQL. So now the next step is, once you open that particular link, kindly note down the SQL version with CU16, which should be 16.0.4165.4. okay, so if I'm going back to my particular link over here, you can see over here the SQL build version is 16. CU16 is the latest community update. The SQL Server build version is 16.0.4165.4. okay, note down this particular version 16.0.4165.4. okay, let's move on to our next step. Now we will verify our SQL version. Verification number 1. How to verify it? So through SQL Server Management Studio, click on new query, and then we need to type one simple query called select at version and click on execute. So we will go back to our main machine, and here I'll click on new query, and here I'm just typing simple select 2 times @ and then version. Okay, and now I will say execute, and you can see over here the result pane. It is showing SQL Server 2022 RTM CU16, and it is showing our KB number also. If you are expanding this one, it is showing your build version also. We have just verified that build version through our official Microsoft site also. So now our SQL Server is running on CU16. This is verification or confirmation number 1. Okay, so on the output result pane you can get the confirmation stating that Microsoft SQL Server 2022 is running on RTM mode and on CU16. okay, the KB number whatever it is. So you can see over here, this is the confirmation number 1. Now confirmation number 2. Through SQL Server Management Studio only, we need to right click on the server name and click on properties. So I'll close this now, and I'll right click on this particular server name, click on properties, and then we'll verify the SQL version, which should be matching with our step number 39, that is 16.0.4165.4, which is related to your CU16. So you can see over here the version, and it is showing the build number, which is actually reflecting with your CU16. okay, so this is the confirmation number 2 that our SQL Server is running on CU16. We have freshly installed through our integrated ISO, and it is already running on CU16. That's the whole purpose of this particular video. Okay, I hope you got your point. So thanks all for your time. This is Swaroop IT Solutions. If you like this particular video, please share it with your colleagues, with your friends, and do subscribe with your channel. Thanks all. Have a good day.